Hey, delighted to have you with us as always. Today's topic is what's it really like to be self employed? What's it really like to work for yourself? If you've never done this before and it's the first time you're considering going freelance, what's the reality of the experience of that? So, I'll outline some of the key differences between being an employee and self employed, and also at the end, some of the steps I think you can take to try and navigate best that transition from employee to self employed. So one of the first things you lose is the structure around you as an employee. So what I mean by that is all the things that you maybe don't even realize go on, but make your life a little bit easier. So one of those things, for example, could be the accounting side of things. As an employee, of course, at the end of the month, you get paid, you receive a pay slip, you receive the P60, all the documents you need, tax gets taken out, and it's all organized. Of course, when you go self employed, that is completely different, and the responsibility goes on to you to organize your finances, your taxes, billing your clients, chasing up those payments. Obviously, you have to set up the bank account in the first place. So all those elements that you maybe took for granted as an employee come over to you from an accounting perspective. Related to that on the similar point is also in terms of the new business. So let's say, for example, you're a graphic designer and you're going freelance. Now, working for a company or an agency, whatever it might be, you're obviously given projects through your line manager that you would work on, and there's a constant flow of work that you would be doing. And there's a new business team or there's a sales team who are bringing in that business, and you're delivering and doing the work, passing that back to the client. Now, of course, when you go self-employed, you then have to become the new business team. You're the person bringing in that work. You're the one who is doing the sales calls. You're the one who is doing your own marketing to try and attract new prospects that you can convert into new business opportunities and clients that you can work on. And then, of course, you've still got the process of delivering the work, communicating that back to the client. So again, depending on the background you have in your company as an employee, a lot of those elements that other people are responsible for will ultimately come across to yourself. Now, another key point is around the team as well, because if you're an employee, you may or may not have been going into an office, particularly given recent times, but you would still have had a team that you're working with, quite likely. That could be a big organization of which there's a small team you're with, or even if it's just a small business, as a group you are a team. Now again, you step into a freelance world working for yourself, you lose all of that structure of a team, and some people can find that difficult from the communication side of things, can be a little bit lonely working for yourself. And that's why I advocate, and I've touched on this in other videos, about the collaboration side of things, working with other freelancers, becoming part of freelance communities, and of course, obviously, you're going to be engaging with your clients as well. There's a slightly different dynamic there, given obviously they are paying you for a service compared to colleagues that you're working with in your previous role. So that's something to be aware of in terms of that difference between the colleagues and then working by yourself and having that lonely kind of environment as well. Now, on the upside, the potential for growth is a lot higher than potentially it could be as an employee. And that could be financial growth as well. You may take steps as an employee where you're promoted and you get a pay rise, or even if you move roles and you're compensated more for that transition over to a new company. But as a freelancer, subject to how you price yourself, and if you do a lot of the things I talk about in other videos in terms of pricing and selling your services correctly, you can actually increase your earnings as a freelancer probably more significantly than you would as an employee. Now, that doesn't happen. It's not just a prerequisite, of course, of going freelance that will happen. But if you do the right things, you have a higher potential for growth. And if you price correctly, and if you start to maybe outsource certain elements, you can really expand your potential from a financial perspective as well. Again, on the positive side, you can have some more variety and creativity. Potentially, as an employee in your company, you were given a role, you were given clients or projects, and you would churn out the same work consistently, time in and time out. Whereas as a freelancer, you have the opportunity to work with a whole range of clients and businesses and organizations, and you'll get experience with different types of companies, different projects. It's very difficult to get bored as a freelancer in terms of the actual work you're delivering because of that variety, as long as you don't pen yourself into a specific client that you work with. And I've touched on that in other videos as well, about giving yourself diversity in terms of clients that protects you in many ways, but also, as I say, gives you a positive benefit of the excitement and the innovation and kind of unique newness of working on a wide variety of projects. So there's some of the key elements, I would say, that people don't often realize how much of an impact they can make when you transition from employee to freelance to self-employed. As I said, in terms of steps you can take to mitigate the difficult ones and to hopefully move forward with some of the better benefits quicker, what you need to be doing is preparing as well as you can for that process. So, as I say, it's always good to have a bit of time to consider. You don't really want to just drop your role and go freelance straight away. We talked about how you want to have a financial backing sort of foundation before you leave of about 6 months worth of expenses if you can, and potentially as well if you can work outside of your role in evenings and weekends. Maybe you've picked up a couple of clients and projects, so you hit the ground running rather than sort of from that day one you're struggling and you're desperate for business. You have a little backlog of projects that you can start with, and then you can expand from there. And that will give you some exposure to those things I talked about: the sales, the marketing, potentially the accounting. You can get those things set up in advance. And of course, if you already have some clients, maybe some communities that you can join while you're planning to go freelance, you can mitigate that side of the loneliness aspect as well of working for yourself. And on the positive side, if you have some clients, you're going to go through some of the mistakes people often make early stages of pricing incorrectly, underpricing themselves, and committing too much and over servicing clients, so that you can more quickly learn those lessons to get towards that point of financial benefit of charging the right amount for your efforts. So it really is about planning and preparation in terms of mitigating and planning for some of those steps I mentioned before. As always, I hope you found the video of value. Any comments, do post below. I will read them all and come back to you if there's any further questions. And yeah, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.